Your career journey probably won't look like anyone else's, and that's exactly what makes it interesting. Welcome to Tallo Real Careers, Real Journeys, where we explore the twists and turns that lead people to where they are today. I'm excited to introduce Juliet and hear their path from student to social services. Juliet, thank you so much for joining us today. I just wanted to get started and ask you, what does a typical workday look like for you?
So each workday is different dependent on how many sessions I have. So some days it might be I have sessions all morning into night, and some days I might just have sessions in the morning, sessions in the night. So each day looks a little different, and it's always to be expected of different things that could occur throughout the day.
That's nice to hear. So being in this job and field, what kind of personalities thrive?
So, with therapy, everyone kind of adapts to different forms of personalities, but I think it's very good to maintain conversations and, you know, it doesn't necessarily need to be a big personality because my personality may not match with, let's say, a 10-year-old, but it may match for a 40-year-old. So everyone, it really depends on what the client is looking for. And then what happens is we try to connect people that, where they feel like they have similar interests or similar experiences or have expertise in that kind of, situation. And then that's usually how we pair them up.
That's amazing. So I wanted to ask, how does your work setup look like? Do you work remotely, on site, or is it a mix?
So I actually do a mix. I'm a hybrid, so I do 3 days at the office and one remote. But that doesn't mean at the office we don't see people remote. So a lot of times, if it's people all over New York, not everyone has the transportation or they live too far, or let's say some of the children, their parents can't get out of work in time. We have remote, but some people prefer in person. So it's nice that we're accommodating on both ends. So it's a little bit of both.
Okay, that's nice to hear. Um, I also wanted to know, how does your role contribute to something bigger or more meaningful?
So, ooh, that's a good question. I think it's more or less knowing that the small things could have big impacts.
Mhm.
So just knowing that you could change someone's directory of life or even just change someone's day, I think that kind of has a domino effect on how they are as an individual, how they are at work, in their community. And I think it's more or less we don't really do the work, our clients more do the work. But I think it just shows the impact on how one person could change someone's life, or one thing, or one word, one sentence could have a long lasting impact that could really help, or in some cases, can, outside of therapy, can hurt. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely, there's definitely that aspect of indirect impact there.
Mhm.
So Um, what knowledge, skills, or talents do you think are most important to have in your career?
So I think in our career, it's definitely important to be an active listener, and also maintain composure in high stress environments and situations. People are going to say things that maybe you've never heard before, or tell you really intense things where you have to really be able to keep your composure to let them know that it's a safe space to speak, and also be able to actively listen and read in between the lines of what people are saying. Because a lot of times, some people don't always tell the truth, right? Because it's uncomfortable telling almost a stranger what is going on in your life and being able to be really vulnerable. So I think definitely the active listening is super, super important, but also having the ability to be passionate in what you do, because it goes both ways. If you're not 100% in it, your clients are going to feel that energy and vice versa. So even though you may not hear things that you want to hear or completely agree, I think it's important to really, show that that doesn't matter and that you're both there for the same reason, which is to help the client.
Yeah, so I think open-mindedness definitely sounds like a huge thing there.
Yeah, 100%.
That's great. So, looking back in your life, what did you study in school, and how did it prepare you for this role?
So I originally went into school undecided. I went to college. I was like, I don't know what I want to be.
Mhm,
But then I actually had a mentor and I did my undergrad. I got a bachelor in social work and then I got my master's degree in social work and I took the licensing exam. So I'm an LMSW in social work.
mhm.
And so now I do individual therapy, which, could be a licensed mental health counselor, could be a family counselor or social work. So it's really broad what you can do with social work.
That's nice.
Mhm.
And so when you're in this career, what technical or soft skills you think are really, really important?
Well, similar to active listening and being open minded, I think another really important one is the ability to, um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. The ability to keep like an open mind, but also be very non judgmental, because there's going to be some conversations that you your personal values and morals will not align with them,
Mhm.
and it's important to know that that shouldn't be a determining factor in a therapeutic relationship. And also, another important soft skill is setting professional and healthy boundaries between the client and yourself, and just the workplace and yourself as a whole, because sometimes it's hard to separate work from personal life.
That is true. Moving on to the next question. What opportunities are there to grow or specialize in your field?
So within my field, there's a lot of different ways you could go. You could go more of the macro route, right? Which is, legislation. You could go more the community route, which is nonprofit organizations, or that's also families and like that mezzo. And working in a hospital, right? That's more, you're working with people for a short-term basis. And a micro is more, I work with individuals, parents, a little bit of families, maybe small groups. And with that, you could get different certifications and specializations. For example, someone that really wants to do cognitive behavioral therapy, let's say, you could get a certification in that. So that way you could focus more on that. And people that only one kind of that in strict 8 to 12 week therapy, they
Mm.
go to people that are specialized. So you could get specialized really in any form that you want. It could even be in art therapy, right? Or it could be as complex as like specialized in trauma or, maternity and any fertility, sorry, or pregnancies. There's a lot of different routes that you could go where there's always someone for something.
That sounds amazing.
Mhm.
So are there any specific certifications that helped you to get started or stand out from everybody else?
So for me, it definitely was getting my license in the state of New York, which is an LMSW. So it
Mhm.
says I'm a licensed master's in social work. So a lot of times these jobs are looking for people that have that, at least that LMSW. So right after school, I really made sure to get that over with. Not that some jobs won't take it, but a lot of them need that kind of state certification, and some jobs will be a little lenient and give you a probationary period where you
Mhm.
have a limited permit until you could get that done. So that was really helpful for me. And another one is mandate reporter training. It's always nice to have it. Your job will even, a lot of jobs will have you go through the training yourself. But also having that, which is basically knowing the legal kind of limitations you have and the importance of knowing what confidentiality is between a therapist and a client, but also, what are some exceptions to that? I would say that my team and like the culture of it, it's been the best environment I've had throughout my whole entire like now I don't have the most experience in the world, right? But I could tell a team that wants you to succeed. They want you to do the best and be the best that you possibly can, and they're super supportive. I know that I email my boss all the time. We basically text at this point through email
Mhm.
with all my questions, and there's no judgment behind it. Everyone just wants you to do better, and we even have a work therapist too, so that we could kind of go through our own emotions and feelings, because I think sometimes we even forget that we're human and we're allowed to have those feelings, and even working through that. So everyone wants you to succeed. Everyone wants you to do the best. Even let's say I have a supervisor, but even if I'm in communication with another supervisor, they're not going to shut me down
Mhm.
because, it's not my claimed supervisor. So it really is a variety of everyone wanting to help, even coworkers. If we see one in the office, they're always going to be there for kind of therapeutic advice. Even though we're not saying any identifying information, someone might have experienced a similar client and ask, what did you do to kind of help work through this challenge? And it really has been super helpful, at least for me, because I'm a question. I ask a lot of questions.
Mhm.
So it's really nice to have that.
That sounds like a great collaborative culture.
Yes, 100%.
Um, so I think this question is a little bit hard, but what's the biggest myth or misunderstanding that some people have about your job?
Hmm. That is a hard question, but a good question. I think the biggest myth or misunderstanding is that it's easy. I hear all the time, "Oh, you get paid to talk to people. You
Hmm.
get paid to talk to," and you wanna know what? It does sound like that, but I think there's a lot more that goes into it. It's much more than just talking to someone, having a conversation. You need to really train your body and train yourself to kind of put your emotions and what you're feeling and your behaviors aside to these people that are confiding in you, where maybe outside you'd be like, what is happening? Inside, you really have to keep that composure. And it's so much more than just talking. You're really also going into their world, and which takes a lot of energy and really working with them through these really tough situations, no matter how big or how small. It really is most important on how it's affecting them. And you're really diving deep into people's vulnerability that a lot of people don't do on a regular basis. So it's very emotionally tolling and draining as much as it's beneficial.
Yeah, and I've also heard personally that a lot of people think that they don't need a therapist to kind of
Mhm.
tackle their own problems, that they can kind of work their way through it on their own. So I think that's also a really, really big misunderstanding. But thank you so much for
Yeah,
clearing that up.
of
Um,
course. And you're 100% right. I have clients that come to me that tell me I don't need therapy. And I'm like, well, we're both here. So that's true.
yeah. Um, I also wanted to ask you finally, if you could go back and give your younger self advice before starting, what would you say?
I would say breathe. I'm definitely someone that likes to keep going and pushing myself. And like right now, I even have two jobs and I like to overdo it. I
Mhm.
think it's important to breathe and really just be in the moment and not to stress yourself out. Everyone's going to make mistakes. Nobody's going to be perfect. Everyone's going to look back and be like, "Ooh, I should have said this. I should have done that."
Yeah,
And the clients are going to do the same thing. And it's okay to be a little nervous because they're just as nervous, and to really just allow yourself to feel what you feel and don't try to just brush it aside because that's not going to help anyone.
for sure. So yeah, I think that that's the end of all of our questions. So Juliet, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and knowledge with us today. Hopefully, our Tallow talent picked up some insights that surprised or sparked something new. Everyone's path is going to be different, but that's what makes it yours. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember that there's no simple right way to build a career. We'll be back next time with another completely different story from a totally different field. Because the more paths you see, the more possibilities you'll discover for yourself.